my channel, mammals. I have been working since last night all the way till early this morning before we left for church on doing experimenting finally. I wanted to do so much for you to be sure that I really understood the recipes. And I learned a lot, actually. It was a great experience. I'm so glad I did it. So now I'm going to come around to the other side of the phone. I'm trying to do this by myself. Let's hope we do it right. Anyway, welcome aboard. Yeah, this is my array of samples that I did. I tried 6 different ways, and mainly what I found was that I was more interested in experimenting with the types of oranges because I really needed to understand how they affected and how they worked and which was the best. And I found that they were all delightful. And they do show, I'm going to move this over so I can see you better. Maybe I'm talking in the wrong side of the phone. Who knows? Oh, I wish you could just tell me. I'm going to look kind of center, okay? What I found is that I did Minneolas. Do you know what those are like? They're kind of like a really rich, beautiful, bright orange. They're not very big. And they have a kind of egg shape with a pointy part at the end. They're very juicy and tender. I tried the Clementines, which, the little ones, like these. You know, these little guys. I think some people, I don't know what they call them, but we, in our family, we call them Clementines. I'm not sure. But this is what I had done when I first did it. I just threw 3 or 4 Clementines into the blender, and I loved the results of that. So I thought I would experiment with that again, and I noticed that their very distinct flavor comes through, and it's just lovely. And then I did what they really ask you to do, which is a large California navel orange, and that was this loaf, and I'm going to bring you over here. Let's see if I can get this so I can show you as close as I can. Yeah. So, and oh, another thing I noticed, okay, I'm going to shift back to the types of things I did. The other one was blood oranges. I wasn't sure what that would be like. I knew that it would change the color, and I knew that it would probably be an ugly color, but I thought it would have a very interesting taste because the blood oranges have a wonderful, elegant taste. I have no other way to explain it. It just has its own very special elegance. So that was these, and you can see this is not overbaked, and this is not underbaked. See the difference in color? So, and any of them, you see, all the others are pretty much the same in color, but the blood orange, and I saved pieces of orange, of the different kinds of oranges, so that I could remember which went with what by morning. Of course, they're all shriveled up by now, but see, that's the inside of a blood orange. It's almost black. And some of them, this is a blood orange too, but part of it was almost pale, like the pale, and the other part was a bright orange. And, you know, they're all different. They're very different. They're very much their own thing. And here's an example of a backside of one and a backside of another one. And they're all blood oranges. So that was an interesting experience. And then the regular good old California navel orange, I saved parts of it to show you or to remember. And these 2 samples here. I'll do a slice of each one, even though you can't taste it. At least you'll be able to see the texture. And then I did, let's see, what was this one? Oh, this one over here. Let's see, I don't know if I really showed you these. This was the California Navel orange right here. And you can see the block too. This was the blood orange, which you saw was very dark. The Minneola was this one. So one of these is missing. Most of them made 2 loaves. I'm running all over the place. I hope you can follow me. These are the loaf pans that I use. I have 2 of this small size, exactly the same size. I don't know why I have them. So this is the smallest size. Usually what I was able to do, and then this is the largest size. You know, more a regular bread pan, but it's taller and narrower, I guess. And then there are 2 and there's 1 in between size. So there's, and sometimes I was only able to get the in between size. So they're like that much difference from each other. And then the baby. And so I was able to get a large one and a medium one. No, a large one and a small one in most cases. And in a couple of cases, I was only able to get a medium and a small one, I think. Yeah. I think that's how it worked. Anyway, so those are how I baked them. And I didn't butter or flour the tins. All I did is lay a piece of parchment, and I didn't cut it specially or anything. Here's what I did. I'll show you. I was very, well, you can see, I don't actually need to show you. You see how they're just kind of squished into place. For instance, here's a good example. See, I just stick this in the pan, and then on the ends, however it ends up folding at the back side here, is what it was like. See that? It just would go in there and fit in there. And it was amazing. It would rise up over the edge. It never stuck to the pot. I never had to do anything but just lay this paper in there. And the paper didn't burn. It was just ideal. I put the oven at 350 degrees. And let's see, I'm trying to keep on track with which. Okay, then I did a wonderful sample of just like 2 really, you know, when you have I have to lift you up a bit to talk to me. You know how when you have just a really good ripe juicy orange that's shiny on the outside, not pebbly like this, but slick. And there's something about those oranges, and they have the best taste. They're so sweet. I used 2 of those. Like with the big California orange, I did what they suggested, which I didn't do the first time. And you can see that that's why I have these little end cuts, is I sliced off the 2 budding ends of the orange, where the stem is and where the bottom of it is. I would slice it off, hopefully not taking any of the orange. Like here I barely got just a little tiny bit, and then I had to slice it twice to get to that point, because I wanted to get as much of the pith out of there as possible. And then this one, I just was able to, you know, get there. And then I did that with every single one. And so even with the little clementines, I sliced off the button on the end, hopefully not slicing any of the juice out. And then even here, I'd go a long, wide slice along here. And then I would cut it in half. This I didn't do it the first time either. I just threw the whole thing in the, you know, into the, I just threw the whole thing into the blender. And that worked beautifully too. But what was good about this is if there was going to be any bitterness, I was able to catch it because there's like usually a little white core in the middle of pith, and you can just pull that right out. I don't know if it made any difference. It's such a forgiving recipe and way of cooking that you can do what you like or not. I try to get a feel for what's the right proportion of the liquid and the orange, as if it was a large navel orange, and it all works out. There are different thicknesses in the batter because of because you don't have any real scientific accurate control, nor do you want to, and yet every loaf was beautifully moist and consistent as far as everything about it. I just can't get over it. So what I did also differently from the beginning, in the very beginning, when I was first showing, I just threw everything into the mixer. And now I decided to err on the cautious side when it comes to the flour, because I've heard that the flour, if it mixes too much, it becomes glutinous and sticky and kind of heavy. And so I thought, I'm just going to respect that. So I mixed everything in the blender except for the flour. And then I just poured it out of the blender into a bowl with the flour, and I used a whisk, like, and I made them one loaf at a time. You know, I didn't, just a whisk like this. And I didn't really whisk it the way you would use this whisk. I just kind of, I basically went like this, and I kind of stirred it and made sure it was off the edges, but just enough that it was blended. I didn't belabor it because I wanted to keep the flour as untouched as possible, but not have lumps of white flour. And so it's a little bit of a balancing, but not that bad. The amount of ingredients that are in it are 4 eggs, 1.5 cups of sugar. Let's see, 4 eggs, 1.5 cups of sugar, the orange, and oil, 3/4 of a cup of oil, a mild oil like a canola oil or a vegetable oil, any kind of gentle oil. You want to maybe go to olive oil because it has a little bit too much of a taste and color. And then I just went scrabbled that right up. And there weren't really any seeds to speak of. I think in the blood oranges there were a few seeds, so I just pinched those out and that was it. And that's the advantage of cutting them in half. Normally I would just throw the whole orange in, as I said. But now I was cutting it in half and then throwing them in and pulling out that little center thing of pith. It was no big deal. And then, so that's the ingredients. 4 eggs, 1 orange, or however many oranges it takes you to make that attitude of 1 large orange. So in many of my cases it was 2 oranges or 3, and then in one case with these I did 5. Isn't that funny? But they were so small and with so much air between them. When you think of it, look, watch. I think that there's a lot of air between these and not that much fruit in them. Anyway, it came out perfectly. 4 maybe would have been just as fine. So it's really hard to be too particular. So it's mostly the fun of the adventure of it. And they're so quick to make that you can make another one or another one and, and write down your findings or whatever. Then, once that blends up, nice and smooth, it just takes, I don't even think it's a minute. But you want it to get well blended, and it doesn't hurt for it to blend probably longer. And it has the 4 eggs, and they all blend so quickly. And then I would pour it into a bowl with the 250 grams of self-rising flour. Some of the recipes called for flour with the salt and the baking powder measured out separately. But I decided to go with self-rising flour for one reason. I don't trust the age of my baking soda, my baking powder. I just don't trust the strength of it. And I hate to throw it out. I use it, you know, for things that don't matter so much to me, but these cakes really mattered to me. So I thought, I'm just going to use self-rising flour, a fresh bag of self-rising flour. And I just poured it into my little scale and 250 grams, stirred it in, and then poured it into a large and a small of the baking tins at the 350 degrees that was already warmed up with some potatoes in there. If you come with me, I can show you. See that little pile of potatoes? Ooh. Those are all potatoes I baked whilst I was making these things. And then that's it. And oh, the other thing is I said, except, whoops, I have you on a tall, a new thing. It's a tall tripod, so I'm able to stand up and talk to you, which is wonderful. Thank you. Our, let's see, our Patreons made it possible to have this, so I'm very grateful. So what I thought we would do is, just so that you can see the textures of these, is we can cut a slice of each one. Unfortunately, you can't taste them, but each does have a lovely individual taste. But they all taste good. Now this is the one that's the ugly one. Oh, but it's so delicious. But it has to be ugly because it's the blood oranges. But I'm not doing big thick slices, but it's supple and it's moist and it's cake-like. It doesn't crumble apart easily, but it's great. And they say that you can, look at, isn't this cute? Oh gosh, I haven't really looked at this closely in so many years. This is my great-great-grandmother's little, what they used to call a sandwich tray. Look at those beautiful tartan ribbons and thistles. Do you see? Isn't that gorgeous? And the fact that it's still here with us today, it's just, I just think it's lovely. I remember it from my great-grandmother's house. I remember it from my grandmother's house. I remember it from my mother's house. And now here it is on Yankee Ferry, out in the world. And I'm sharing it with you. And now everybody in the whole world can see this little sandwich tray from Scotland from many years ago. I wonder if it says anything on the back of it. I never really looked at it. Made in England. Empire. That's it. In somebody's little mark. I mean, it was probably it was probably a production piece. Okay, so there's that. Now this is the one that's done for what it's named after, the whole orange tea cake. And see, I'm not even using a serrated blade. I'm just using a straight blade. And they cut just... Now, this one's obviously a very different color. But if you see this in the sunlight, it's bright orange. And see, it too, it's just supple and moist and tender. And they say that you can save them in the freezer, individually wrapped slices, or the whole cake, I suppose, for like 4 months. And you can keep them out on the table for like 4 days or more, depending, I guess, on the climate that you live in. But it's so easy. Okay, here's another one. This one is the, I think I have the wrong oranges. I think this is the one with two really great oranges. Two beautiful oranges. That were those ones, the smooth skins. remember? And, oh, this is a good example of a bad job. See the little white bits of flour in there? And I know how that happened. I used some of my older self-rising flour, and it was kind of clumpy a little, and I didn't take it seriously enough. So in here, you're going to see some white, but it's not going to change the taste. But it's a bit bothersome, you know. It's not perfect. See here. See that little thing? Probably if you were eating it, you would just pop that out, or eat it anyway. It's still moist flour, but just not as pretty. But look at beautiful, everything about it, except for my cavalier approach there. Okay, so now let's try. This one is the one with the clementines. Again. And this one, I was so tired. I forgot to put the eggs in. And I was just about ready to pour it. And I thought, it seems so thick. And so I thought, and then I saw the eggs and I thought, oh no. So I mixed the eggs in separately at the end. So it's a little less beautiful in its texture. I think that's why, because they're not done in the blender like the other eggs, but it's still lovely. It's still fine. And then this one is, oh, I'm getting confused about some of these. I know this one is, this one's with the Minneolas, I think. I think this is the Minneolas. This was made in a smaller. I might be getting confused, but until I taste them, I can't really tell. But this is in the medium size tin. But look, it's just beautiful. And the only one I'm not sure about at the moment is, this is the Clementines. This is the Minneolas. I'm not really sure. I'm a little confused on one. Anyway, here's another one. This was a different recipe. This one was with 3 eggs and like a smaller amount of oil. It's fine, but it's not as it's fine. So this is this is the whole array. Aren't they pretty? I think they're lovely. I just think they're great. Well, of course, when you're making them in 2 different size containers, of course, one comes out sooner than the other. Oh, and when I put the toothpick in to test them, I want it to come out. Some of these are a little farther along than I would like, and none were too soon. And I like it when some crumbs are on it, and a little bit damp, and a little bit of crumb on the little wooden stick, because it's okay for it to keep that moisture. And was there any? I know there was something else. Oh, another thing I do is, which I should have done before I cut these up, but before I wrap them and put them away or give them to somebody, and I did this morning for the gentleman that I gave to, I sprinkle them with sugar. So they look so pretty with the sugar. On top, they don't really need it, but it makes it more festive. Some people in the recipes will suggest like a thin sauce made out of a little bit of milk and some orange juice and I guess some sugar, but you really don't. I don't know why. I suppose just to dress it up a bit, but I think this warm or cold, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or tea, and it's just, and you don't have to worry. You just push it through when it gets kind of crumbly in there. Okay, one of the recipes, for some reason, had 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And I thought, I'll see if it makes a difference. And you know, we both detected something, some kind of a difference. It tasted a little bit cozier. You know, the lemon, I mean the lime, the orange is, you know, it's robust, it's got this bitey edge to it, and it's kind of icy in a way because it's a citrus fruit. And I don't know, there was something about the vanilla that just tendered it a little bit. And I don't think you need it. I think like our daughter and son-in-law would just love it without it because they liked it as raw and sugarless as possible. They even liked it when we had the lesser amount of sugar. But, and the lesser amount of sugar is, you can do less sugar. You can, instead of 1.5 cups, you can do 1 cup. And it's absolutely fine. You can just choose what you prefer. But the vanilla, I don't think anybody would really say, oh, you know, I really notice a difference. And it might have just been mental. I was making an excuse for why we, you know, spent the extra time putting this vanilla. You just throw it in the blender with everything. Anyway. So there we go, and I'm going to print the recipe for you. But I thought it was easier to talk to you about it, and show them to you, and just finish off this because I made you wait so long for the recipe. And I'm telling you, this is the easiest, fastest, even with taking it out and mixing in the flour separately. It's just, I don't know, it's just so great. If someone just pops in at the last minute and, you know, turn on the oven, throw it in the thing, throw it in the oven, and in a half an hour, literally, probably you'd have anything you'd want. And it's so shocking, and it's so bright and sunny orange. You know, you could put a pretty little condiment with it, or you know, you could just enjoy it in any way. Our family often eats things like that with a wedge of cheese. And there's something about that that is fun. You don't usually think of eating citrus with cheese, but you could use a creamy cheese or a softer cheese, not like a harsh cheddar cheese, but just something to take a little of the sweetness away. But have fun with it. Anyway, I have no idea. It's just such an adventure. I'm so grateful I ran into it. Anyway, goodbye, my channel members.